Fragments of Silicon, a respite from at least some of life's everyday horrors.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. So instead of going through the usual preamble, I'm just going to tag in Petty Fan here because he's got some technical updates to get to.
So if you're wondering what the issues were with Sunday's reviews, my GPU died in the middle of broadcast. I was able to scrape it together long enough to get the 3 reviews mostly complete, but my GPU just, it's done. Luckily, with the help of my sister, I was able to procure a replacement and an upgrade. So I went from a RTX 3050 to a RTX 4060. So
Big numbers are better.
very much so. And with these big numbers, I can investigate stuff like live transcription, which is something I can look into in the off season.
Indeed.
Because I know that's something that some other outlets have been kind of looking for.
It's something that's come up with this show from time to time. Not often, but it's been requested.
So if I can make that work, then that will be helpful. Because the problem is I just didn't have enough horsepower. So if I can make this work now, then that will be very useful for the show going forward.
Indeed.
And then I guess as far as other news stuff, Mom got her new car on Saturday. She now has a 2024, I think it is. I thought it was 25, but it's a 24. Mitsubishi Eclipse crossover. So it's got some nice features like remote start, which is very useful here in the frozen Midwest. I think the only issue she's had is she somehow lost a trim piece on the top where where you can put an optional roof rack. But the parts department at the Mitsubishi dealership is looking into getting that replaced. Because if you don't replace it, water can get in there and cause rust on the roof, and that's bad. So they're looking into getting that replaced. We got our bill from the ambulance ride from our accident. $900. Ain't American healthcare great?
Wow. That's a lot better than some stories I've heard.
Yeah. And I guess we're still talking to a lawyer, but I guess I can mention next Friday we can't have too long of a show. I don't remember if we have one on schedule for next Friday.
I think we do.
We just can't run late because I have a doctor's appointment later that afternoon. As long as we're done by noon my time, we're good.
That shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, that would be we've run an hour late. So,
Right.
But yeah, definitely one of those things of it sucks needing to get things looked at because, dumbasses.
Well, it's even worse when your doctor's an hour away.
Yeah.
See, one of the nice things about living in Florida is you're never more than 10 minutes away from a doctor.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's doctors closer here, but I wouldn't take a dying rat to the local hospital.
I mean, that's that's fair, I suppose, since I don't know the state of your local hospital. But I'm talking about like actual doctors and specialists.
Yeah.
They're all over the place here.
Oh yeah, because old people.
Yes.
But yeah, so as far as gaming goes, I was playing some Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, and then my GPU decided it didn't want to exist anymore. So I did get a good chunk of the way through. Like, I think I finished the first chapter of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I may play some more of that in the post show. So hopefully I have that wired up correctly. We'll find out. And yeah, I think that's it for me.
Well, Galax, you're up.
Honestly, I've just been kind of stressed out about all of the various stuff in the news that is not necessarily conducive to, or not necessarily good news to people who work at nonprofits regarding people with disabilities, so
Mood.
it's been a bit frustrating. But besides that, we've finally gotten some actual snow, and we're supposed to get more tomorrow, so the office is going to be closed in advance, just so people don't have to dig out their cars and deal with stuff on the way home, I guess. It's not supposed to start until late morning, so...
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully it's not too bad, and we don't
Any idea what
lose
accumulation they're
anything.
guessing, or?
I heard 3 to 5, but I don't know how long ago that was or how accurate it is. And who knows what the temperature is going to end up being. So
fair enough. Because Maine and Missouri have one thing in common. We both have weathers that can flip on a dime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could end up being either too hot or either too warm or too cold for snow.
Mm-hmm.
Which would be worse, because if it's not snow, it's probably going to be ice. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. Hopefully everything will be fine. I don't know how bad it's supposed to be. Let's see. Otherwise, everything has been going mostly smooth, aside from between a few things going on with the computer at work and various other things. I have been unable so far to, maybe I'll try to do it tomorrow if they're open, to pursue the getting a CPAP machine thing.
Oh, did they find you have sleep apnea?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a CPAP
or at least testing it. I've been debating trying those nose strips or something first, but I haven't been able to get back in contact, because it was before the holidays, but then I lost track of stuff over the holidays for holiday reasons.
Fair.
And then I need to, like, I called back and I can't find the extension number for the person who I talked to before, so I'm going to have to ask to be transferred to them to see who they need to transfer me to, because apparently the sleep place doesn't actually sell the durable medical equipment, but we'll see.
Yep.
Anyway. Also, I was hoping to do my taxes soon, but now I'm worried about that, because the website to do that is one of the things that may or may not continue to function, considering the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
So, yay. Video game wise, in addition to, I'm going to be playing Splatoon 3 a bit to warm up and get shells for the Splatfest that is, I guess this coming weekend. Sorry. Aside from that, I also picked up Dead Cells a bit again for a while, and finally managed to actually get into the Castlevania DLC, and I got through it well enough to beat Death, but have not gotten through enough to actually see Dracula. Also, I still have yet to play it on any active boss cell things, which is a little bit unfortunate because. But yeah, I'm not great at the idea of not getting any of the healing or much healing between stages. So, and I'm not good at not getting hit. And I actually tried using a shield this time, which I'd never even tried before. But it's not for me. Anyway, that's about all I got.
Okay, guess it's my go. Well, I guess the big thing still is, still dealing with the AC people. This is taking way longer than it should to resolve, but it is getting resolved. Thankfully, children aren't in imminent danger anymore. And it's just the part that they need is taking longer to produce because they got to get it from Orlando, and I think that's coming next week. Anyway, those outside of that, not much this week. Let's see. In programming news, it's an even gamble if Max shows up tonight, given what he's told us. Because if you've been paying attention to his news screeds on MSP, he was about to lose power at any given moment in time. That has apparently occurred, and now he's testing out his solar punk future. I have no idea how that's going to pan out. So,
honestly, I'm surprised that the building superintendent hasn't forced him to take it down yet, but I guess they don't care enough yet.
Yeah, give it time. Anyway, in game playing news, let's see. Played some of Lego Marvel Superheroes 2, and yeah, I went through the regular Lego cycle. As in, I play it for about 6 hours, get bored, and then go find something else.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean, if my kids knew if my nephews and niece knew about this, especially my nephew, this game, they might actually be interested in a game that requires buttons to play. Thankfully, Lego games are so brain dead, even the touchscreen generation can play them.
Yeah.
Seriously, the results of them, my oldest nephew trying to use a controller were not pretty. I'm not surprised. It's just, their Nintendo is a fucking Android device.
Indeed. That's probably a topic of discussion in and of itself someday.
Probably. I'm like, there's a much deeper topic there because, it's part of the disconnect of what's going on in the AAA big boy console space and, what's actually the most popular games in the world. Because, it's not Spider-Man 2 or Dragon Age Velguard or even EA Sports game. If we're taking into account mobile, maybe. But, the point is, it's Fortnite, it's Roblox, it's Among Us, it's Minecraft. Those are the things that stimulate the kids these days. Now, they still know about Mario and Sonic, but that's mainly because, they're transcendent video game characters. Anyway, this is getting off into a tangent, so I'm going to branch off into the interview for the week.
Right.
And joining us today is Ahmed of Lunar Games Limited.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi.
So how are you doing today?
Sleepy. It's 5 a.m. where I am.
Oh,
Yeah, I really wish the Earth was flat, but what can I do?
Mm,
I have to deal with those time zones.
indeed.
right. Anyway, so I suppose we should get into things. And how we like to get started properly on this program is we like to get to know the people behind the game, the studio. And in your case, I'm rather extra interested because you're our first Middle Eastern developer, at least that I can recall,
Hmm.
depending on how you want to view North Africa. Um, but splitting hairs aside, what got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
Well, we all love games since we were kids, of course, but the reason why I got into gaming because I actually came from a um, story writing, movie making background, and I was actually um, doing screenplays and even won a couple of screenplays. I was going in that direction. And while I was doing that, I got contacted by people who wish to make a game, and I write a story for that. And later that team dismantled, so I moved on. But I really liked the story, so I thought, let me give it a go. Let me try to do it by myself. And I thought, how hard can that be? And the answer is extremely hard. But I persevered, and eventually, yeah, that's how I got into game making, and I love it. I really love it. I mean, I can't wait to finish my Fatherlight so I can start my next game. I really love doing that. This.
Like, well, that's a good attitude to have, especially with how long games can take. But I suppose
Oh,
we should
indeed.
unpack a
Yeah.
few things here. First, I guess I should ask, how long ago was this event? How long ago were you asked to write a game?
It was in 2021. Yeah,
Okay,
2021.
so you've been doing this for about 4 years.
Well, the game itself, I've been doing it for a little bit more than 2 years. But the story itself, yeah, I wrote, like I
Yeah.
started thinking of the story was 2021, but the actual
Mhm.
development, I think it started in 2023.
Okay.
No, no, actually late 22. Sorry, 2022, late 2022.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, about 3 years, which once again, that's a fairly standard chunk of time when I'm assuming you're a solo dev, or if not, then you've got a very small team.
Mainly, I'm a solo dev. I do everything. The only thing I don't do is the drawing arts. The game has cutscenes, like
Mhm.
a drawn cutscenes, and that is someone else does. It's an artist named Dash. She's great, and I mainly do all the 3D. I'm not a programmer per se, so I use Unreal Engine's visual scripting blueprints. It's much easier for someone who doesn't know how to program. I do 3D on Blender. I compose the music by myself, and of course, I do all the sound effects. So mainly, yeah, I do everything by myself, but the drawing is done by someone else. And yeah, it took me more than like about 3 years. But I also was learning how to do a game and learning how to do 3D while I was making the game. So yeah, I think my next game will have a faster pace in the development area. I hope.
Um, I guess time will tell on that matter, but obviously you've got to get through a game, your game right here first.
Of course, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And we can touch upon that at the end of this. But um, what is My Father Lie?
What is my father lied? Okay, so that's the elevator pitch, is what we call in screenplay writing. Yeah, so my father lied is a mystery puzzle game that follows a daughter's search for the secret behind her father's 20 years disappearance. And her search leads her to some kind of a secret place that has stories inspired by Mesopotamian history and myths. Yeah, so it's a point and click mystery puzzle similar to classic Myst and and a little bit modern touch like The Room and House of Da Vinci, you would say. Yeah.
Mhm.
So mainly that's the game, and it's called My Father Lied because, like I said, it has some kind of a secret place, and you cannot keep secrets without lying. So eventually, that's how the title came to be. My Father Lied.
Makes sense. It's just the way things are titled, it makes it come across as, a negative connotation, and perhaps that is the case, perhaps that is not the case. You know,
Well, it could be. I mean, I don't want to spoil
no,
it, but yeah,
no,
it's like I said, secrets you have to have a lie. But the thing is, what is the lie? Is it a good lie? Is it a bad lie? Is it a white
no,
lie? You never know. So
right,
at
but
the very end, like the last sentence in the game, in the story, you will know what the lie is. Yeah.
right. Um, I'm talking more about the title because it's more like it's accusatory
Oh
or comes,
yeah.
you know,
It's a little provocative. Yeah, yeah, I know. But it's catchy, isn't it?
oh no, no doubt, no doubt. Um,
Yeah.
it's titles are an underappreciated part of the matrix of a product.
It's
Whether
the
it be a
most
game,
difficult. Yeah, it's the most difficult thing to come up
yeah.
with a title, a catchy title. Uh, it's harder than writing a full novel, honestly.
I'm like, I can see what, because it's the first thing that's going to come across, or
Exactly.
at
Yeah.
the very least, one of the first things, even if they, somebody sees an image or,
Mm.
some sort of other representation, title's not far behind. So, anyway, putting that aside, was there a particular reason you sought to pay homage to the graphical adventure games of the mid to late 90s?
Actually, many reasons, but I can think of two mainly. The first one because I love classical games. It's the games that all the modern games are built on. Honestly, uh, yeah, of course. And the second thing, I mean, we have to I have to keep reminding myself that I'm a solo game developer, and the one of the mistakes that I mentioned that I was uh, contacted by a team who want to make a game, and one of the biggest mistake they did is they treated it as a AAA game, and they wanted to make it much bigger than what it was. It started as a simple puzzle with a story and like that, and then slowly it became almost like, I don't know, Resident Evil 2, the modern one, and it's difficult to do that with only 4 people. You know, well, you can do it, but it'll take you like 20, 13 years. I mean, I don't know. Well, so and most of them didn't have the enough experience needed to create such games. So I needed to make a game that a solo game developer can make, and usually most indie games you can see how it resembles mostly the old classic games, and that's for a very good reason, That's why, and that's mainly why I went to the classic look because I love the classic look. It's not bad, and as classic go, classic games goes, I mean, a point and click first person is still something we play today. It's it can feel also familiar to even newcomers, new gamers. So I chose this way, and like I said, I made the whole game with 360-degree images. So when you play, you can look around and everything, but in fact, there's no 3D. It's just an illusion I created, and the way I did, and the reason why I did it this way, so it can look good, and still play well on low spec computers. So that's why I chose this look for the game.
I see. Yeah, reminds me a lot of Return to Zork.
I heard about the game, never tried it.
Yeah, that's an adventure game from the late '90s that actually had 360 degrees of viewing. Which was which was not a. You didn't see that a lot in games of the '90s because the constraints of the time. I mean, hell, Myst in its original form was was a literal slideshow.
Exactly. I was gonna say that.
Yeah. And I suppose it's worth asking, what sorts of puzzles have you come up with?
Mostly logic puzzles. Because, like I said, it's a secret place, and if you play the demo, you're gonna find out that in that place people start to forget things and so on. So they need to try to find a way to remind themselves, but because it's a secret, there could be a spy among them or something. They cannot just write down the codes and where they put their stuff, so they have to create some kind of a puzzle to which they can solve to find the things they need to open a specific gate for, like the gate they're responsible of. They need to place some kind of a puzzle on the sides, on a puzzle they create themselves. I'm sorry, I just woke up. So anyhow, um, so I put myself in the shoes of those people who would be there, and okay, how would you make a puzzle, related to yourself, to your past, to the environment around you, and so on. So that's how I created those puzzles, and mostly are just logic puzzles, and it's not it's most all the puzzles, and not all, sorry, most of the puzzles in the game are fair. Eventually you can solve them, even if some of them take a little bit of time. It's just about, okay, trial and error. Eventually you can solve them. But there are extremely difficult puzzles in the game, but they are like a bonus puzzle. It's like a side quest puzzle, but if you don't solve them, you can still continue the game. It will not affect the main storyline. But if you do solve them, there will be like secret messages and audio recordings that will help, with lore and stuff that will help to expand the world of My Father Light. So you'll get to be rewarded eventually for solving those puzzles, and you're gonna feel good about yourself also.
It might depend on when when you play the game, because a lot of people will use a walkthrough.
It's for hardcore gamers. That's what I'm saying. People who really want a challenge, I place these puzzles for them.
Yeah, though I suppose that depends on how, not necessarily popular. Like, it's not the word I want to use, but I can't think of anything better. The point is, it depends on how much people play the game and document it. Because, your King's Quests, your Sam and Max's, your Grim Fandangos, etc., are all very well documented, because, they were extremely popular adventure games. Whereas you might get, like the still life games, or a great number of European adventure games where you don't necessarily find a walkthrough because they're obscure. So
Yeah.
that's really, time will tell on that matter. But regardless, uh, now, are the logic puzzles tied to items? As in, the classic adventure game, you find the thing, get the use the thing to make thing happen and advance, kind of deal.
Yes,
Or
some of them, yeah. Some of them are, and some of them, you're gonna find some kind of a notes or hints
Mhm.
related to some kind of button codes and light
Yeah,
things. But yeah, not all of them. You have to find items. Actually, many of it's a good question.
yeah,
Actually, yeah. Some of them you have to find an item to place it, and then the puzzle turns on and something like that or whatever. And no, in other instances, no, you just need to uh, look for the clues, and eventually you can open like some kind of a safe code, like the same thing you're gonna find in the demo. Actually, the demo doesn't have a
right.
lot of objects to use. I think like 2 or 3 objects, and that's it. But mostly it's about logic. Checking around and reading notes, and then you find out hints to operate some kind of a uh, tool or machinery or something like that, or a code that will eventually help you further expand, move forward in the game. So yeah, it's either you find an item or you just look around for clues, and that's it. It's like an escape room, I would say. Yeah.
I can see that. It's also, how do I put this? We've talked about the puzzle design of adventure games on this program, and to liken it back to the classics, um, the object puzzles, that's much more a Sierra LucasArts style of gameplay versus the logic, the finding stuff on various notes. That's much more Myst and the games that followed in that path. Because I remember doing a lot of that in Myst. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mix of those, like I mentioned. It's Myst is more about notes and stuff, and hence, yeah, um, yeah. I mean, I'm like I said, I place myself in the shoes of the people who will be there who try to, uh, keep that place a secret, so they create a puzzle. So that's why I think differently every time. Like I feel like, okay, if I'm this kind of person, what's his personality? Okay, one of the puzzles is related to a poem, for example, and I'm not gonna spoil it. It's one of my proudest puzzles actually, but it's like you have to read it in a specific way. Then you're gonna find the code that you need. That's kind of logical puzzle, which you can think as a missed puzzle. And there's another like chest inspired puzzle, which you have to find a specific item to operate on that thing, and then once you solve it, you get another item to turn on the next thing, and so on. So yeah, it's a amalgamation between Myst and Sierra games, I would say, kind of puzzles. That will be perfectly. That's how I would uh, not explain it. Sorry, my English is failing me right now. That's how I would describe it. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Mm.
And it's good to have a nice variety of puzzles, and also make sure they're environmentally appropriate. Honestly, that is something that's always bothered me about the Seventh Guest. That their puzzles always had this very big disconnect to the setting. Um, but that's a tangent for another day. Uh, anyway, so in regards to the puzzles, are you looking to implement an internal hidden system?
Well, it depends. What's that?
That is to say, if somebody gets stuck, they can look something up in the game.
Oh, like if they get I have like some kind of a hint system. Like when the timer goes on, the main character will say something to help the player. That's only for the main puzzles. The side puzzles, the bonus puzzles, the hard one. There's no hints, no holding hands with that one. But there will be some kind of a hint system. There's a note actually in the game where you can find sketches and hints and stuff, and with time those hints will be added more if the player feels like stuff. Because mainly I'm a storyteller. I want the main story to go on. So if I feel like the player is stuck, I want to help them around. Like every 5 minutes or so, there will be some kind of an extra hint will be added eventually uh, to help the player. So yeah, if you feel you're stuck, well, you won't be stuck for long. The demo doesn't. The demo has just the note, the primitive note right now. So there's a hint there, which helps, but I realized I wish to help the player to move on faster. So I upgraded the hint node. You can see the new hint node, the hint sorry note, yeah, hint note on the trailer. It's like this last trailer I made is also to reveal the new note system. Um, so yeah, players won't get stuck hopefully in the game. So no one need to be afraid of that. So like there's a game called even like going around or something like that and finding the clues and hints. I made it so easy for everyone. The reason why is there's a game called Darkness Within. I remember it's the search or something like for Lothar Nolder or something like that. I forgot the subtitle of the game, but I remember I got stuck for like 2 days. Uh, and it turns out there's like some kind of a small item. I remember like hovering around it, but the cursor didn't change or anything, and it was very frustrating. And I thought I shouldn't do that for to the players. So I made all the objects and items obvious. I have like some kind of a symbol next to it to indicate that hey, this is something you can take or something like that. And I thought, okay, the puzzles should be challenging, but not finding the items and stuff should be a challenge. So yeah, I try to make it uh, accessible for most players, and even the puzzles have hints and so on. But at the same time, maybe hardcore puzzle players will not like that. Will think, oh, it's simplifying it too much for us. That's why I placed the bonus puzzles to say, okay, here you go. You want something challenging? Well, I gave you this.
Yep. I was gonna ask about that because yeah, nobody likes pixel hunting. Um,
Yes.
it, it's less of a problem these days because pixel hunting was often the result of the low fidelity of old computers. Though you can still run into that problem when you get the adventure games that are really into homaging, say, EGA graphics or something like that. The point is, waypoints are your friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I do agree. Like, the challenge should be in the puzzles, in the logic, and figuring out that stuff, not key hunting. That's
Exactly,
just
yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah, that's frustrating. Exactly. So I really thought about it while I was making the game. It was originally like a pixel hunting thing at first, but I thought, no, that's gonna be tough and not tough, just frustrating, like you just mentioned. So I avoid that in my game. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I suppose it's worth asking, what is the current state of My Father Lied?
All the I mean, in terms of development, all the puzzle rooms are done. That's it. There's no more 3D designs to be made to be added to the game. Uh, only thing is left is the art and the voice acting and localization, which is why I'm doing a Kickstarter right now. It's just for those things, but everything else, like the game itself, it's it's done almost. I would say it's done. I'm just assembling everything in Unreal Engine, and the only thing is missing is those things and the soundtrack, of course. But that's easy for me to compose. It doesn't take too much time for me. But mainly is the voice acting, the uh, the art. It's still not finished, and the localization. I because um, I'd like to have as many people all over the world to try to play the game. Hopefully, I mean, that's what I'm doing the game. Actually, I just wish to share it with as many people as possible. To share my culture with the world instead of the negative things you hear about countries. So
Right.
yeah.
And yeah, we don't get a lot of games that feature the Fertile Crescent, let's say.
Hmm.
Which is a shame because I think games could use more ziggurats.
Definitely, yeah.
Like, anyway,
There is one in my game actually. Yeah, I think at the end of the trailer I reveal a ziggurat.
Yeah, I'm switching to the trailer footage right now.
indeed. So, how far away would you say the game is from completion?
We should be done on April, hopefully. Um, yeah, and April to the beginning of May, most probably. End of April to beginning of May, and hopefully we release it at the end of May. I mean, this is how I plan it, but every time I look around at other game developers, like indie game developers mainly, even AAA developers, there's always some kind of a delay that comes in. So I'm not confident. I'm confident that everything is done, but the voice acting and the audios and these things, when you mix them around and everything, you have to trial and error, and you have to do beta test it and bug fixing and all these things. These things could delay me, but like hopefully end of April, like the start of May, everything is done. By then I'll be just fixing some bugs on testing and retesting until the final release, which is hopefully May 13th.
So you've got an actual date there.
Yes, I do. I work better when I have some kind of a end date, so it keeps me focused. Yeah, it keeps me focused instead of TBA. You can lose your focus when you don't have a release date.
Right.
It has to be logical and reasonable, of course.
Right. Still, that's something that runs counter to so many devs we have had on the program. So many devs will absolutely refuse to commit to a release date until they're absolutely sure that's when it's coming out. And even then,
maybe they're right. Maybe that what they're doing is better than what I'm doing. But
it's one of those different
it's
development philosophy type deals.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, if that makes, if having an actual release date there helps you, I think that is what is most important.
Mm-hmm.
And have you determined any sort of pricing for My Father Lied yet?
Yeah. Yes. At first, it's gonna be like $11.99. That's the main price I have for the game. There'll be a discount when it first released, but that's the starting price when the game is released, and hopefully, of course, later in the future, the price will drop. But that's just the beginning to cover all the costs and everything. So, it's a regular because I looked at other games similar to mine, and it's either more than that or a little bit less than that. So I took the average price. I mean, And I think it's fair, for a full game, for a full featured game. It's not a short game, a full story game which has voice acting and puzzles and hand-drawn cutscenes and so on to be priced at this price. I mean, there are much, much more expensive games that did much less than that. So hopefully it's fair. That the price is fair for that.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
mainly
suppose,
11.99.
okay.
Yeah.
And I suppose my final question here is indeed, what have you given thought to in terms of your next project?
Oh. Well, I already have the story. I mainly do games like stories related to my country. So my next game, I thought about it. I have more than one idea, but this one, I don't know. I feel more excited about because it's inspired by a true story. It's gonna be a detective game. It's about an actual serial killer in the 70s, and that was they call him the Butcher of Baghdad or something like that. But his story is extremely strange and weird. You know, and yeah, it's I mean, it's like they call him like an axe murderer, but he did much more than that. But the target he chose and the way it happened and it has a lot of conspiracy theories around that story, which really is interesting. And I have my own conspiracy, and I want to mix it with Mesopotamia and stuff, and not Mesopotamia mainly, but yeah, you know what I mean. So yeah, it's my next project. It's gonna be some kind of a detective, but it's also a horror game, which like when you're doing the detective work, it's a detective work, but when you put yourself in the shoes of the victim, when you imagine how things happen, that's when it becomes a horror game. But I'm thinking of doing something new in it, which is like games have difficult level of difficulty, like easy, hard, and medium, and something like that. It's very easy. Instead, I'm thinking of doing like a level of horror. You know, like if people want to play it as just a detective game, they don't like horror games, or they're very scared of these kind of games. They can choose to play the game as a detective game, so the horror elements is less. Or you can make it a balance between a horror game, or you can have a complete strong horror experience. So that's my idea for my next game.
Hmm. Sounds interesting. I look forward to seeing how that develops.
Me
And
too.
indeed, I look forward to seeing the full release of My Father Lied here when it comes out in hopefully months. Um, right, so before we formally wrap things up, I will see if my colleagues here have anything further to ask you.
I think I'm good. Alex?
Sorry, I was muted. I think I'm good.
All right.
Awesome.
All right. So, Ahmed, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule, especially it being very early where you currently are, and
It's
talking
my
with
pleasure.
us here today. Anyway,
Oh, thank you for having me.
yes, no problem, no problem. Anyway, the game is My Father Lied. It is currently available for wish listing on Steam. Um, be sure to go and do that, as that helps with the logarithm, yada yada yada. Um, and Petty, play us to the next segment. All right, so welcome to the topic of discussion. So this week we are talking about Ninja Gaiden, specifically the 3D branch of Ninja Gaiden, as I guess we now have to officially break that off, since we've got Ninja Gaiden 4 coming in, but we've also got a new 2D Ninja Gaiden Ragebound that is, a new entry in the NES saga.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose that is another differentiation. The 3D Ninja Gaiden games have always been their own thing. As far as I know, they're not retellings of the NES games. There's no real connection to the NES games outside of, I think that, I know at least the original Ninja Gaiden, I want to say the entire trilogy might have been in the first Ninja Gaiden game for the Xbox.
The first game was.
Yeah, there we go. I know it was something like that. I mean,
it is still Ryu Hayabusa's story.
Yeah.
Right. It's just Ryu Hayabusa is a much different character in the 3D game.
In that he is actually a character.
He had character in the NES versions. A lot more character than a lot of NES protagonists. It's just, it's still the NES.
Well, I've only really played the first one. It might be one of those ones, it comes out more in the later ones.
I mean, this was one of the NES one was one of the first games that had, like, cinematic cutscenes, admittedly with mostly still frames, that have, like, text that the characters talk a bit about what they're doing.
Yeah, like I said, it's a lot more than you got with a lot of NES games. It's just, at the end of the day, it's still an NES game. Your characterization is going to be limited. Versus, the Xbox games. Now, granted, Ninja Gaiden isn't all that heavy on characterization. I'm not saying it's light, but, it's not a Square Enix JRPG or anything of that nature. Mm-hmm. And I do have to recognize that this Ninja Gaiden series is connected to the Dead or Alive franchise. In fact, if I'm remembering correctly, one of them, I'm trying to remember, like Rachel, I think, appears in like Ninja Gaiden 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to remember if like that was in the original Xbox version or if that was a Sigma edition.
She is. At some points, I believe she is basically the damsel in distress / following Ryu at points.
No, I definitely remember that part. Like, mainly because of the, let's say, distressedness of the damsel.
Yep.
Especially because she was, she's wearing a leather outfit.
Mm-hmm.
It's, it's Dead, it's the kind of thing that Dead or Alive is known for.
Indeed.
And now the thing that Dead or Alive is known for. But we're not talking about
Dead. Yeah, that's another topic. That's a topic I need to lay down money for to order some certain games in that franchise that may or may not be allowed on Twitch. I'll have to do some research.
Well, you're going to have to lay out quite a bit more since, Dead or Alive 3 Extreme or Dead or Alive Extreme 3 is like Asia only.
I'm aware. And that's the one that people talk about the most because it did the thing.
I'm trying to think, like, what, did it actually have nudity?
There was a bit. Enough that I can't remember if that's the one that's banned on Twitch or not.
I mean, the thing is, like, for all of the sexy implications that Dead or Alive has carried, they've never really allowed nudity. Like, nude mods get blocked all the time. But yeah, we're getting off topic here.
Yeah.
I suppose the biggest connection, if you want, between the old series and the 3D series is not necessarily Ryu Hayabusa or any plot element. It's the white knuckle difficulty. At least the first two games.
Yeah. The third one's easy as shit.
Well, I mean,
one and two will put hair on your chest.
Well, I mean, the third one had a lot of things going against it. It's not just necessarily even reduced difficulty. It's the AI is so fucking brain dead. A 5-year-old could probably outsmart it.
Unfortunately, I played the updated Xbox version. It's still not much better. They had a chance to fix it, and they said, "Nah, dog."
Well, yeah, Razor's Edge fixed things, but you can only fix so much there.
I know.
Ninja Gaiden 3, you just need to throw out and make a new one.
Well, and a lot of people were trying to say the problem was the Wii U, and then it got re-released, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, no, we knew that Ninja Gaiden 3 was a piece of shit because it released on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 first. The Razor's Edge edition came out on the Wii U first, and then got backported to the popular console.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, I don't know what Nintendo saw in Ninja Gaiden 3 for them to want to publish it themselves, and presumably give the money to make Razor's Edge in the first place. But they did that. Yep. God help us, they did that. But yeah, getting back to the bone-crunching difficulty of Ninja Gaiden, it's not even that it's difficult. It's about it's one of the cruelest games I can think of when it comes to difficulty.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that just in evil level design, unfair hits, trial and error jumps, that kind of shit. I mean just directly insulting you kind of difficulty. Dog mode.
Yep. Well, and
it's
there's not it's actually very fair. There's no one-hit kill enemies. There's none of that bullshit like in some other quote-unquote hard games.
Right.
You can deal with anything in front of you. You just have to pay attention.
Right. But I'm talking about this game literally insults you.
Yeah.
Or not being good at the game.
Mm-hmm. Well, you figure the first game playing was it the one that technically had easy, but if you play on easy, you wouldn't get the full story?
I think so.
I know that was a trope back in the day.
Oh, that was a big time trope in the 16-bit era, where, and that's if they were feeling kind. There are some 16-bit games where if you play on easy, you won't even get to play the full game. You get to play 3 levels, and then you're told to, bump up the difficulty and get good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, we've come a long way in terms of video game difficulty. I know it's an internal conversation, but we don't have many developers insulting the audience because they're not necessarily good out the gate with a game.
People think that fucking Dark Souls does that. No, that's the community that insults you, bro.
Yeah. I'm like,
Dark Souls tells you get the fuck back up there and do it again.
anyway, putting that aside, Ninja Gaiden is still considered to be one of the finest action titles that's ever graced consoles.
Because it's fair. Like I earlier mentioned, you can get through anything in front of you. There is nothing that is impossible. You just have to pay attention and know your moveset.
Well, I suppose what's interesting about the hype cycle for Ninja Gaiden 4 is it stands out more today than it did in 2004. That might be a weird statement considering how established a franchise Ninja Gaiden is, but if you've been paying attention to our reviews, I've talked about this when I cover like something that's Souls-like. Because for some weird reason, we've gotten a good deal of 2D games that have had the Souls influence. And I, to reiterate the point briefly here, Souls-like gameplay is very slow, very methodical, very chess match, very, block, parry, that kind of deal. Whereas Ninja Gaiden, Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, that kind of action, it's fast, frenetic, more about dodging.
Like, you can block and parry in Ninja Gaiden, but eventually you will die because you take chip damage.
Right. Like I said, you want to avoid your enemy instead of having a magic dodge roll that makes you invulnerable.
Yeah, there are no real iframes in Ninja Gaiden. Like there's a brief bit of iframe in Ninja Gaiden, but it's nowhere near as long as it is when you roll in Dark Souls.
But just more to the point, the action here is fast.
Very fast.
Kinetic. And all those kind of buzzwords. And right now where, I won't say like peak Souls-like, but Souls-like gameplay is very dominant in the single-player industry right now. Like, so this is like Ninja Gaiden 4 is probably going to come across as a breath of fresh air.
To some, at least, yes. There are some who still love the Dark Souls slow methodical framework, and that is a valid way to enjoy your games.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is all the fucking indie games out there are drawing inspiration from Dark Souls or Bloodborne or some combination therein. It's kind of reached Arkham Asylum combat levels now. It's good, but it's overdone.
I mean, in fairness, with all these smooth animations and stuff like Ninja Gaiden, it's very hard for an indie to replicate. It's not impossible, but it is very hard.
No, it isn't. And indeed, I can think of a Fury, a game we actually featured and interviewed the devs of way back in the day. Sometime in the Talk Shoe era. But that was a spectacle fighter done on an indie budget.
Oh, you can make spectacle fighters, but like sometimes you do have to give up on some of the fluidity, the physics.
Yeah.
Even if you're making a more 2D, like something full 3D like Ninja Gaiden here is going to be a lot harder to do on an indie budget.
And if it doesn't work, if it's not good, it'll be more noticeable.
Yeah. I'm not sure about that, but I'm just saying, this style of action isn't as in vogue as it was, during like the PlayStation 2 era. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so it's gonna shine brighter now, especially since we're talking about the AAA level. I mean, say what you will about the indies. Like, obviously, I'm not saying that nobody does this kind of game because Devil May Cry is still an active franchise.
Is
I'll
it
grant you,
though? Like, when was the last Devil May Cry game?
Devil May Cry 5 was not that long ago. It's been a measure of time, but I don't think Capcom I think it just sold 10 million copies. So it's not a dead franchise. Like nobody's heralding the return of Devil May Cry. Like they
Fair
are
enough.
owning Musha or
Right.
Virtua, something like that. I suppose it's a bit concerning that we haven't seen Devil May Cry, but once again, that's a topic for another day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, alongside the announcement of Ninja Gaiden 4, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black got announced and released, and that's what's being shown here. Petty, can you tell us what's been done to make it black?
The biggest thing, they have moved it to Unreal Engine. For the
Okay.
pros and cons of that.
I mean,
I'm not the biggest fan of it because I don't like how Unreal Engine handles particle physics. But that's just a personal gripe of mine.
I don't like how damn sluggish Unreal Engine gets.
I mean, this actually doesn't do that bad speed-wise. It's about as fast as I remember it on the original Xbox. Granted, I'm also on a very good PC right now.
It's fair.
But, like, I have the original game on for the 360. And, like, I've definitely noticed they're using stuff like high dynamic range, high models, modern accoutrements on here. Some of the reflections look weird. There are some places where Ryu looks like he's made out of plastic instead of a person. But that's just Unreal Engine. There is a weird shading issue where there's a level that takes place in New York and the Statue of Liberty looks like it's made out of marble instead of the greenish copper. But those are, just weird nitpicks there as far as...
I was going to say maybe it's an alternate universe where they made it out of marble, but then also...
It's electrically
I cannot
conductive.
imagine the fucking expense of shipping that from France if it was made out of marble.
Exactly. But yeah, most of the movement tech's still here. All the weapons are here. This does take some of the bonus chapter stuff from Sigma. But they did remove the Statue of Liberty boss fight because people absolutely despised it. There's, I think, 2 more boss fights. I know the Team Ninja website has a breakdown of what each version has that I don't have in front of me at the moment. But, like, I know there's a lot of under-the-hood stuff, but it's mostly the same game as 2 Sigma. Just in Unreal Engine this time. I don't remember which version of Unreal it's using. But yeah, it's still the same game. And it's still a very good game.
Well, hopefully Ninja Gaiden 4 continues in that tradition.
Indeed.
Unless, and it's a bit too early to say anything really about enough.
Well, seeing how the only thing we really got was a non-gameplay cinematic trailer for
That's
her.
what I'm talking
Yeah. Well, I've seen bits of it. I haven't sat down to watch it yet. So it's like, oh, that's nifty. Show me gameplay, please.
Anyway,
Oh, I got
so
the gun. I forgot that was in here. Never mind. Yeah.
anyway, so I think that'll about do it for this topic of discussion. Indeed, that'll about wrap up this episode of Fragments of Silicon. So that brings us to the week ahead. Coming up on Friday, February 7th, we'll be welcoming back to the program Victor Pendeiro of Giorno of Games. If you remember last time we talked about Sword of the Necromancer, we'll be having him to talk about the remake of that game, Sword of the Necromancer Resurrection. Yes, I believe that's the remake. The sequel is Revenant. A lot of R's there. Anyway, coming up on the Sunday reviews, we'll be having reviews of Gravatar Recharged, impressions of Positron and Don't Die Minerva, and back to the review corner with Lit. So look forward to that, and indeed be sure to tune in a measure of time, let's say, for Moonhawk Studios Presents. Until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.